Welcome to the Julia Mantha channel. If we're just meeting, my name is Julia, and what we're going to talk about today is what if you could write anything you wanted to write, what would you choose to write? If somebody just came up to you and said, you know what, whatever it is you want to write about, go ahead, you can write about it. Which seems kind of like a crazy question, right? Because as a writer, of course we can write about anything that we want to write about. Nobody is telling us, it's not school, right? So nobody is saying you have to write about this, you have to write about that. But yet, one of the things that we tend to do as writers is we tend to limit ourselves, or we start to judge things by, should we write about that? Is that a good enough topic? Is that something that somebody would be interested in? So we start to limit our possibilities even before we start to write, which is kind of a silly thing. So what I'm going to share with you today is that if you don't do that, it really opens up your possibilities. So I tend to look at things, topics, for example. In fact, one of the topics is wine, right? So I love wine. I love drinking wine. I love different flavors of wine. So, but that wouldn't be a topic to write about, right? I'm a women's fiction author. What does that have to do with fiction? And well, it has nothing to do with fiction. But is there some way that I can incorporate something that I like to write about? So I might just sit down and just start journaling about it, right? So I might just sit and just start writing what I do know, or what I like about wine, or what I enjoy about it, or what a visit to a winery. And that will begin to spark something else that I might decide to write about, or I might decide to incorporate that into my novel, which is exactly what I did for Say You'll Be Mine. So for that book, one of the things that I thought is, okay, well, let's see, my main character is going to like wine just like I do. Now, what else can I do with that, right? So okay, so she likes wine, so what big deal? That could be one of her traits that I put into the novel, but it really isn't. It isn't really that interesting, right? So maybe why does she like wine? What is it about wine that she likes? And that could lead me to, well, okay, let's see, maybe she's into wine tasting, or maybe that's part of her job, or maybe she owns a winery. It's like, okay, well, now we're getting somewhere. I kind of like that, right? So I kind of like the idea of a heroine that enjoys wine so much that she has her own winery. And the story can begin to develop from there, right? So it gives me an excuse as the writer to actually visit a winery and to learn a little bit more about a winery, and to go do some wine tasting and see how wineries are run, and to get more ideas. And now just a little spark of an idea of, I really like wine and I really would like to write about that. But I'm not a wine expert, so I'm not going to write like articles, or I'm not going to write blogs about it, but I am going to maybe be able to include it in my novel. And from there, actually, my entire novel just kind of grew, right? So yes, she owns a winery, and she's a very successful businesswoman. She's very successful as this owner of the winery. But what happens as a result of her owning this winery is that she neglects everything else in her life. So instead of being happy that she has a successful business, she's really not quite as happy. At least that's where the idea started, right? And from there, I took my novel I pretty much stayed with that idea, but I took it into a little bit of a different angle eventually, once I plotted it all out. But the point is that when you start writing and you start asking yourself, like, if I could write about anything in the world, what would I write about? Don't limit yourself. Don't say, I love dogs, or I love this, but I'm not going to write about that because I don't really know enough about that, or I'm not an expert, or nobody would be interested. But really, you don't know, right? Because you can make it interesting, and somebody could be interested in it as long as you're interested in it. If you're passionate about something, it's going to come through in the writing. And even if you don't, let's say you're in a topic that you like and you want to explore and you want to write about, but then you really can't fit it into a novel or an article or a blog or whatever, is it a waste of time to write about it? No, right? Because everything is practice as a writer. We get better and better and better by practicing, by taking topics and writing, whether it's descriptions or feelings about something. The more we write, whether it's in a journal or whether we open up a Word doc and we start typing, it's that practice that makes us stronger writers. So don't ever kind of start limiting yourself on the things that you want to write about. Just if there's something you're interested in it, just sit down and write about it. Okay, if you want to read a little bit more about this, I did cover this in my blog this week, so I will post the link down in the YouTube section down there, and you can go and take a look and read a little bit more about this. All right, thank you for being here today, and I'll see you next time.